A warm welcome to your Barbados Today Evening News Update for Thursday, June 10th. Our top story, a 10-year-old boy suffered several injuries as he fell into a 25-foot well at Jackson Terrace St. Michael's Stage 1 just before 6 p.m. After a 45-minute operation, he was rescued by members of the Barbados Fire Service. Sub-Officer Henderson Nichols of the Bridgetown Fire Station updated reporters at the scene.
On the assessment of the actual rescuer who doubled as the EMT, his assessment was soft injury to the neck. He had abrasions to the right ankle, and he also had a broken femur.
Officer Nichols said the child was playing as he fell into the well.
This is a residential well next to the occupier, the house of the occupier, but it was also dry, so it wasn't in use at the moment.
Did the casing around it give way? What exactly happened?
Yes, the casing wasn't the best. It had deteriorated over time, and the pressure of the child when he was running caused it to collapse and fall in.
In other news this Thursday, changes are coming to the Employment Rights Act, which will result in a more effective Employment Rights Tribunal. Word of this from Labour Minister Colin Jordan as he addressed members of the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association on Wednesday.
Work is continuing to take place in order to review and improve the legislation on our statute books. We are currently in the final stages of reviewing the Employment Rights Act and preparing rules for the Employment Rights Tribunal. And we've had representation over the years about areas that are seen to be deficient where the Employment Rights Act is concerned. As a ministry, we are responding to that, and we have reviewed all the submissions made. We have our own positions based on those submissions, and will shortly be coming back to our social partners on what we are recommending on the way forward. The Employment Rights Act has never had rules for the operation of the Employment Rights Tribunal, and so we are also preparing rules that should improve the effectiveness and the efficiency of the Employment Rights Tribunal.
Minister Jordan urged players in the tourism and hospitality sector not to view legislation as an enemy. He says it's simply to protect the weak from the strong and urge employers to do all within their power to improve their operations.
Legislation does not prevent you from putting effort into ensuring that you hire the right persons. It does not stop you from using the probation period as it is intended to be used. It will never stop you from properly training and equipping your team members. Of course, it does not prohibit you from properly rewarding who, together with leadership teams, are responsible for building and sustaining enterprises. And ladies and gentlemen, legislation does not stop employers from being responsible for severance payments in the unfortunate circumstance that they become due. The government will not leave workers to suffer. We will ensure that workers get what is theirs by law. The government will also hold defaulting employers accountable, and we will go after them for what is owed.
Barbados created history this week by planting 50 fragments of staghorn coral from the Folkestone Marine Reserve at Carlisle Bay for the first time, as it marked World Oceans Day under the theme Ocean, Life and Livelihoods. Minister of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy Kirk Humphrey was among a team of fishermen, divers and marine biologists who set sail on the historic mission.
We've been growing this thing. We've been doing this for years. This is not a sudden response. And some people may ask, how is the coral going to fare? Well, the coral started here. And here you have all kinds of things. You have all the ships passing by. You have the same similar depth. We believe that the coral is going to do very well. Over there may actually be a healthier environment than here. And the coral is able to grow. So today we're going to transplant about 35 pieces. We have a lot of fishermen on board, fishermen who are coming over now and being part of the dive, and they understand the need to protect the blue economy space. So I'm very, very hopeful. There are 150 pieces or so over in Folkestone, and we're taking about 35 pieces. And we will monitor this coral over the next few weeks, months, years to see how it responds.
Marine biologist at Barbados Blue Andre Miller also described it as an historic exercise.
For the first time ever, we had fishermen who are also divers who are working with the corals. So for me personally to see fishermen now handling corals, to see fishermen underwater behaving like 10-year-old kids because they're learning something and doing something, because a lot of the fishermen want to help us preserve our environment. I think sometimes we misinterpret that there is a conflict between the two, but we both need a lot more fish than they have in the ocean. So it was good to have fishermen out there. We had visitors from outside of Barbados, some of our visiting nomads. We had resident junior marine biologists that just graduated from Trinidad and Jamaica. And then we had paying guests. They're still guests in Barbados, and everybody wanted to be a part of this. So just now as you saw all of those divers, I think we had in total 14 divers. Everyone was outplanting a minimum of 2 corals. Those corals for the next 2 years will be monitored by those divers. They're numbered, they have been measured, all of their apicals and branches have been documented. We will also document them with underwater footage. So those corals, we're going to track them for the next 2 years. And once that goes well, we can continue to grow.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news, a warning to Guyanese to brace for more heavy rains over the next 2 months. Word of this from Prime Minister Brigadier Mark Phillips as he provided an update in the National Assembly today on the massive flooding affecting the country.
In the past several weeks, high tides and torrential rains have led to flooding in all regions across here. The massive rainfall experienced in May alone was recorded as the second highest rainfall across the country in the last 40 years. Guyana's rainy season usually lasts, Mr. Speaker, until early June for regions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The northern parts of regions 6, 7, 8, and 10, while it will continue until early August for regions 9 and the southern parts of region 6. Based on the latest seasonal reports, however, it is estimated that we will continue to experience above normal rainfall during the period June to August 2021.
On the international scene, the United Nations warns Ethiopia is on the verge of its worst famine since the 1980s, when starvation killed more than 1 million people.
Signs of the 6-month conflict in Ethiopia's Tigray region are as clear as rebel soldiers on the streets. Thousands have died as a result of fighting. But getting caught in the crossfire with government soldiers is just one risk faced by some 5 million civilians there in need of food assistance. The UN has warned the country is on the brink of famine. And troops working with the government from neighboring Eritrea, the UN says, bear particular blame.
How much of the current situation is due to conflict?
Well, most of it, really. I mean, it's the conflict that's destroyed farms and harvests and livelihoods and infrastructure. The conflict has wrought atrocities, mass killings, abductions, sexual violence. But some of the parties, I think all the evidence is consistent with the worry that Eritrea in particular is using starvation as a weapon of war, which is a violation. It is a breach of humanitarian law.
In the 1980s, horrific images like these of starving children in Ethiopia and other parts of Africa prompted international outcry. But this time, humanitarian groups say the word and the images are not getting out.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.